I am Bridget Lake, president of the Oviedo Winter Springs Regional Chamber of Commerce, and I am here with Belvin Perry running for state attorney, serving both Orange and Osceola County. Our premier virtual Eastside Regional Hob Nob is presented by Lucas Land Group, an Oviedo-based family-run business with interests throughout Central Florida. Our sponsors, Duke Energy and UCF, our radio sponsor, News 96.5 WDBO, and our website sponsor, Palm Tree Tech Center. Now, before we get into our conversation, let's watch a few quick commercials from our sponsors, Duke Energy and UCF.
When does the future begin? At Duke Energy, we say now. That's why we're investing in tomorrow's stronger, smarter energy future, today. Like a resilient power grid that can withstand storms not yet on the radar. Meters that show your energy use so you can adjust and save before your bill arrives. And a smarter grid ready for tomorrow's clean energy breakthroughs. We're Duke Energy, and we're building your smarter energy future today.
Remote instruction has helped me out.
It's been great because the professor is very communicative still. I can email professor and get an email back in literally 20 minutes. We still have class, we still have to participate. It's not hard, it's just we have to do it a different way.
And I just think we've all done a really good job of adapting to these changes that have happened in a short period of time.
And I'm definitely still learning as much as I would in class.
And now we are back with Belvin Perry running for state attorney serving Orange and Osceola County. Belvin, how are you doing today?
I am doing great, and thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for meeting with us today. I very much appreciate that. Before we get a little bit further into our questions, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm one of those rare breed. I was born and raised here in Orlando, Florida. Attended local high school here at Jones High School, graduated, and then returned back here. My family has been here for years. I have a sister who was a retired school principal, a brother who's an orthopedic surgeon, another sister who is an attorney, and another sister who was a business owner. So I have deep roots, and you know, my dad and mom taught us all the value of this thing called community service.
Did you realize at a young age that you wanted to be an attorney, or how did that come about?
My dad and another gentleman were the first two Black police officers in Orlando. They started January 3rd, 1951. And as a kid, my dad used to take me to city court with him when he had to testify. And that was when that bug bit me at that time. And I've been interested in the law ever since then.
So was there a class that you first took, or was there an interest, or maybe I don't know, a community event that you went to at first that piqued your interest?
Well, attending court with my father and watching witnesses testify, and watching that man, and that's all you had at the time, were male judges presiding over a courtroom in that black robe. And I kind of said to myself, you know, I would like to be that person one day. And fortunately enough, I was able to make that dream come true.
So it sounds like you aspired at a young age to travel on the route of becoming an attorney. And now, you know, starting your legal career in the state's attorney office, you rose to the rank of chief assistant state attorney before leaving to run for the bench. What made you leave, and why do you want to return now?
Well, I spent 25 years as a judge. 18 of those 25 years I spent as the chief judge of this circuit. And my heart has always been in the judicial system, in the legal system, starting off as a prosecutor, prosecuting traffic cases, DUI cases, and then graduating up, prosecuting all the serious felony cases, and then running the office as the chief assistant state attorney on a day-by-day basis. After leaving the bench, I went into the private practice of law and fulfilled a dream that I've always had to practice personal injury law. You ask, why do I want to come back? It's simple. Public service is in my DNA. And unfortunately, I have seen the state attorney's office and the decline of the state attorney's over the last 3+ years. And a number of individuals in this community just say, why don't you run? You know how to run that office. We need you. And after listening to that for the last 3 years, and even before that time, even when I was on the bench, I said, I'm the most, in my opinion, the most qualified, dedicated, and ready to serve from day one. So that's why.
You mentioned being the state attorney. Why don't, if you could, explain what a state attorney does?
The state attorney's office is the chief law enforcement officer who's responsible, or she's responsible, for charging all of the crimes that are committed in this circuit, Orange and Osceola County. They have the awesome responsibility to review cases and to make sure that each and every case is treated fairly. That is, the state attorney has that obligation to not only prosecute the guilty, but to protect the innocent. You have to carefully review cases, and you have to make careful decisions as to how you're going to process that case, whether it's through a diversion program or whether or not that person actually needs to be taken to court. And then after that, what type of punishment should you recommend to the court for that particular individual?
If you or the people, actually, if the people around you were to give character traits, the greatest character traits that you had, that you could bring to the state attorney's office, what words, what 2 character traits would those be, would you think?
Leadership and the ability to bring people together.
Now, I want to go back to something that you talked about when you were talking about your dad. And you said, you talked about your history with him, and your dad was actually one of Orlando's first 2 African-American police officers. How did that impact you growing up?
Well, the one thing was that everybody knew me, so the childhood mischief that you usually would get into as a child, that kind of curtailed that. But it was a sense of pride. It was a sense of kind of seeing what the other side was, what law enforcement experienced, and also what people experienced. It was not unusual for people to come to our home, ring the doorbell, and want to talk with my dad about things that have occurred and about problems that they faced. So it sort of prepared me for both sides to look at it in from that standpoint of a cop's child, but from the standpoint of what we call now community policing. Back then, you didn't know what community policing was, but everybody knew the officers that patrolled their areas, and they felt comfortable with them, and we've gotten away from that.
They always said back in the day, it was the community. It takes a village to raise a child. So, I kind of understand that, but it sounds like from you being a child, you were raised in an environment that, it taught you to stay kind of on the straighter edge because you couldn't really get in trouble without being noticed more. And it also, your father had been in the environment and brought you into the environment that allowed you to see him being a public servant. Tell me more about how that impacted you and where that leads you to continue your path with wanting to be the state attorney.
Okay. One of the things I learned from my mom and dad, that if you are not a part of the solution, you're part of the problem. That you had an obligation to work in your community and to make it better. I was blessed to attend the church that my parents, we all attended church. And there was my Sunday school teacher, believe it or not, was Arthur Pappy Kennedy. Pappy Kennedy was the first Black city council person for the city of Orlando. W.J. Bruton, who started the Urban League, was also one of my Sunday school teachers. Paul C. Perkins, a great attorney, the first Black person to serve as a judge in Orange County as a city judge, was one of my Sunday school teachers. So as you amply reported, it takes that community. Not only did I have the benefit of a great family, but I had great outsiders that taught me the value of giving back to the community and not only taking.
Now, I do have one last question, and you have been credited with being involved with two of Central Florida's most notable trials, the Bonanno murders, which you prosecuted, and the Casey Anthony murder trial, which you presided over. Can you share some of your thoughts about the differences in perspective and the types of pressures you faced during these trials?
Well, those two cases were very horrific cases. And those two cases had the media spotlight. The Bonanno case had a great deal of spotlight since it involved a lady who was accused of first-degree murder, of murdering her son and her husband and common law husband. And it had a lot of publicity here, but not, say, nationwide publicity. The Casey Anthony case was a case that not only touched this community, but it touched the whole world. And it gave a bird's eye view as to how the justice system operates and how it should operate, regardless of whether or not you agreed or disagreed with the outcome of that particular case. So those cases basically showed how the system worked.
Well, I do want to thank you for being here. Before we wrap this up, is there anything else that you would like to add?
The only thing I would like to add is that August 18th, the citizens of the Ninth Judicial Circuit, they have a choice to make. You can go with the person who's the most experienced, the most dedicated person, the person who's ready to start day one, who has that extensive background and experience to make sure that the justice system is applied equally to everyone. And that person is me, the man with the experience, know-how, and dedication.
Well, thank you so much. We are here with Belvin Perry, running for state attorney, serving both Orange and Osceola County. He is one of our candidates at the Eastside Regional Hob Nob. Our virtual Eastside Regional Hob Nob is happening on June 30th, starting at 5:30 p.m. Make sure to register for that, and don't forget to check out our one-on-one interviews with our candidates on esrhobnob.com. Belvin, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
And thanks for having me.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.